Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. This is episode number 98 and it is the 15th of February 2021. I am with my guest and co-panelist Sridhar Chityalaji. Sridharji, namaskaram and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar and good morning from United New York on this President's Day holiday weekend in United States.
Yes, the markets are closed for today, but we will take a look at what is happening, what happened over the last week. The most important thing was the impeachment. That drama has finally come to a close with Trump managing to escape 43 to 57. Seven GOP senators voted to impeach Trump, and this is expected to have some sort of consequences for these seven senators who decided to not toe the party line. What do you make of it, sir?
Well, I think that within any party architecture, there's always bound to be some differences. Mitt Romney, Pat Toomey, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski. It's fairly well known. They have very different views. They're probably more to center left in terms of their mindset. And the two big surprises here are Bill Cassidy and then of course Louisiana and Richard Burr from North Carolina. So both were quite surprised, big surprises in terms of why they did. We don't know. Sometimes it's very hard to gauge from the distance, and very also hard to gauge as to what kind of motivates some of the people to go the other way. I think Lindsey Graham is very right, which is to say, impeachment is now about is a political process, is about political differences. I think that's a very profound statement. So it's very clear, at least in the case of Mitt Romney, one can say there is some element of political rivalry between him and President Trump that cascaded its way, and also there was. Some of the Republican people, have questioned his wisdom and rationale in terms of the positions that he has taken, having lost the original candidacy going back to 2016-17. He thought that he was going to make it. As far as the Pat Toomey is concerned, he has announced his retirement, and that seat is going to fall vacant from Pennsylvania. Right through the election process, when the Republican senators, House Republican senators in the Pennsylvania state legislature were constantly complaining about the changes made by the executive branch and the judicial branch, Pat Toomey stood by and said, there's nothing kind of wrong. So I think all those things cascaded into the eventual outcome. What is most surprising in this was they wanted to call witnesses. They voted to call the witnesses, the House. I think they wanted to start with one or two, maybe one, and that they got their votes. And quickly they turned around, made a U-turn, and said no witnesses will be called, and we'll end the impeachment process. That only tells us that there is something more. Something more here is not with regard to impeachment, but there must have been a thought process going around that the whole Biden agenda could be derailed, and most important amongst that is the stimulus that could be held up, and they have to pass the stimulus and turn it into and convert it into a law for Biden's signature before the end of the month. We are today on the 15th. There's 9 days left. That possibly would have persuaded, and this trial was brought to an end. If this is the case, this trial should not have gone on the day one when Rand Paul made his specific kind of reference and asked for a vote, which is to say, do we want to go forward? There was clearly at that point of time 45 to 55. The five Republican senators always with the Democrats. They should have called it a day at that point of time. So now, all the drama is over. Yeah.
Lindsey Graham also said that Lara Trump is the future of the Republican Party. Who is Lara Trump? Is she related to Donald Trump? And if so, how? And how is she the future of the party, sir?
No, he says that she's the biggest winner after the impeachment failure. I think she must have galvanized, and she has worked with the broad you see various members of the Trump's party, Don Trump, Eric Trump, Lara Trump, the sister of one of the daughters of President Trump. All these the people who have worked with various members of the Republican Party. If you recall, from Jared Kushner to Lara, to Don, to Eric, all of them were part of the Trump platform in terms of the advocacy, participating in election, what you call campaigning, etc., along with the presidential campaign team. So why he's a winner is basically they had predicted this as a foregone conclusion, and that President Trump would kind of come back, and that's exactly what has happened as a result of this.
And President Trump has said that he looks forward to 2022 elections. And as a matter of fact, there's an interesting development as regards to the niece of the Vice President, Kamala Devi Harris, Meena Harris. White House has issued a statement asking Meena Harris to not exploit or not to promote her brand using her proximity with her aunt. Now, there is also another development where Lindsey Graham has said that Kamala Devi Harris must be impeached. Now you have started this game rolling. Every party that comes to into majority in the House and in Senate, if that should happen, will try and do this thing. Isn't this a waste of time? And why is Lindsey Graham saying that Kamala Devi Harris must be impeached?
I think first and foremost, we should put President Trump's press statement. It's a PDF. We should put it up as part of the brief today so everybody can.
We'll do that.
We'll do that. Okay, so that's one. The second, now to answer your question, which is there is a perceptive belief that when the vice president candidate was to have been Klobuchar or Karen Bees, and then suddenly it flipped to Kamala Harris. Remember, Kamala Harris is part of the squad. She represents, when I say squad, I mean this is the gang which is pushing the progressive agenda. The former president, President Obama, is also supposed to be part of the progressive agenda, which we saw in his email in the Georgia Senate runoff races. There has been very provocative statements right through the campaign, pre-campaign, during her role as a senator from California. Provocative statements, which is not in line with the value system of the politics here. So Lindsey is saying if she is impeached, at least to some extent, we may have a meaningful balance between the Democratic policies and the Republican policies. There is at least a converging point in the center to something that we agree and many things that we don't agree, and where we take decisions. Right now, with the progressive agenda, there is no common ground. Either it is extreme left or extreme right, or left or right. So reaching the common ground, Ms. Harris stands between reaching that ground and pushing further to the left. And she's in a very powerful position as a vice president. So that's Lindsey Graham's view.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see, is it not? Because President Biden is not seen as a conservative. He's not seen as a liberal. He's more middle of the line Democrat, a person who can work across the aisle to get things done. In fact, that was his calling card. That was the one feature that stood out between him and his powerful challenger, Bernie Sanders, who was a dyed-in-the-wool progressive. I mean, he was going to basically put financial transaction tax. Oh my God, Wall Street was going to faint. Anyway, that was just my observation. So President Biden is supposed to be the balance that is supposed to make sure that Democrats as a party move forward. So why is this tilt towards a progressive agenda, and when do you think that is going to tilt back to perhaps a more centrist position in the president's agenda, sir?
I don't see that happening with the present set of present set of members who are running the policy framework for Mr. Biden. Um, and we want to stick to the script here. There's a lot of things which is off the script, which we can kind of, state. But some of the off the script stuff reflects, Biden's inability and, orders being signed, et cetera, et cetera. People who have captured some of those conversations. So I just don't see any middle ground happening within the Biden formula. Just to give you one example of that ilk, Ilhan Omar has been appointed to the Foreign Relations Committee. She's going to be the vice chair in charge of Africa in terms of the foreign policy, and she's also the head of she's going to be part of the global human rights. Now, any democratic nation which is not tolerant to some of the extreme views, you're going to find they're all going to be hauled under this called of the human rights, because she is the vice chair and she's also the chair of the global human rights from a U.S. committee within the U.S. committee. So it's a reflection that we are moving left. When you look at the immigration policies, when you look at the energy policies, when you look at the WHO issues, you are beginning to see clearly the executive orders that are being signed off is a reflection of the progressive agenda holding sway, and whether there is an invisible hand of Obama doing Obama 3 here is something that everybody is pointing out in the press. So hence my point is we are not seeing Biden as a Biden. We are seeing Biden as somebody who is being invisibly controlled.
And in global news, we see that the Islamic State is making a resurgence in Iraq. What makes you think that that is happening, sir?
Well, I think that there was a very tight leash under President Trump, and it's very hard to read the signals. But if I take a look at that region, okay, I think we first announced that there's a whole convoy of 40 trucks around, which made an entry into northern part of northwestern part of the Syria, through Kurd area, Kirkuk, and so on, and basically provide support. 40 trucks. There's also oil installations, which is quasi-controlled between the Syrians, between the Turks and the Kurds. Then we saw the bombing in Iran by Al Qaeda. Then we have seen the resurgence. We saw bombings in Iraq, suicide bombings in the market, which killed. Then we saw over the weekend this attack again around the same hotspot by the Islamic State, trying to capture. So what you're seeing here is a vacuum in the power and a vacuum in policy in terms of the most important piece of the West Asia or Iran-Iraq situation. You also saw Yemenis, the Houthis, being taken off the terrorist list, who are sympathetic. Houthis have sympathy from the Iranians. And some of these people were associated with bombings and even a commercial plane bombing. So what you're seeing is a policy vacuum, and you're also seeing the lack of concentration and focus in these very sensitive areas, giving the freedom. This is exactly what happened during the Obama 1, Obama 2 years. If you go back in time, we had whole flare-ups in Iraq. We saw the ISIS all over the place, and human rights violations, abuses, and from Mosul to all the way to Kirkuk, you found that occupation and no zone areas in the map. You saw the Libya flare-up during that period. Whether it is an abject kind of neglect whether it is a lack of kind of strategic focus around the importance. So you are beginning to see this resurgence of these groups in that region, and which is not very good news. We also saw in the Afghan-Iran border a convoy of 200 trucks. Some of, a couple of them flared up big time, which we didn't cover over the weekend. Were supposed to be carrying natural gas and crude. So it begs the question: is there this illegal barter that is going on from the Iranian state? So to answer your question, a series and sequence of these incidents that are going on points out three things. One, policy vacuum. Two, there is no strategic kind of foresight from the strategic oversight of that specific region. And third, there is a self-belief. This is the opportunity to strike.
Now, Indian police has arrested activists linked to Greta Thunberg's movement. Her name is Disha Ravi. And so this perhaps is going to slow down this left planned, anti or fake narratives.
I don't know whether anything in India is the target, right? So I just don't know anything will. I have a feeling it's called as the low-hanging fruit, and it's also what shall I say? It is low target, low value target, right? The high value targets are hiding somewhere up. Okay, the very fact that this lady has been arrested, just probably doing I won't use the word naive, but doing some stuff for these left wing groups surreptitiously, literature, materials, etc., etc. That's what she was caught for. And what is kind of bothering is the amount of media coverage she gets. Is a little unknown. I saw that little video of the snapshot of her arrest and then being taken. It's almost like 200 people surrounding her. She has no value, as though people have nothing else to do in India. The media barrage, all orchestrated. So there's very clear, having achieved success in clearly in the United States in displacing President Trump. And the good news in here is that 75 million still are standing with President Trump. I hope that happens in the case of Modi, the target Modi, and you are beginning to see these activities. I don't personally believe anything will come out of it. The guys who are right at the top are continuing to. The main culprits continue to walk around scotch-free.
Now, let's take a quick look at what is happening in markets abroad. First thing is Tesla's backing of Bitcoin. Will that propel it all the way to 100,000 mark? And is there any basis for it to be that valuable, sir?
Well, I told you that we have to read and write a compliance statement, which is to say, we are not here in providing advice, and so therefore none of you have signed any agreement, and any decisions that you make is of your own volition, and we should not be quoting PGurus or any of us. So I think we have to. That's the standard kind of a protocol one has to read. My personal feeling is that this could go above $100,000. Purely basically because this is speculative. It's like gold. It's a speculative. It's not a tool of currency that is used. So it is, but he is trying to bring it in and use in a limited closed loop. And people think it's very attractive. And somehow, it has a glitter value. So I believe that it could hit $100,000 by end of the year. Okay. Because there's a lot of institutional interest on especially after Tesla said it may try to use it commercially.
And I completely echo Sridharji's comment that all we are trying to do is analyze the trends here. We are not telling you to go buy any stock. You should use your own discretion. And all we are trying to say here is we look at the markets, we look at where things are headed, we give you the news as we see it. Sridharji, this brings us to a close of today's segment. And viewers, one of the things that you should look out for is in about 1.5 hours time, we're going to be live again with Abhijit Iyer Mitra in the ongoing Monday night primetime series, Ask Abhijit. You can send in your questions. You have to use hashtag Ask Abhijit. You can send in your questions on Twitter or Facebook or on YouTube. We'll try to accommodate as many as possible. And also, you may have seen that some of the comments that are coming today in our Hangout have people with the membership decal and logo alongside their name. Whoever becomes a member, it doesn't matter which level. There are 4 levels of membership. The basic one is just 119 rupees per month, and we encourage you to do that because this way you can help us grow. We are trying to invest even more resources in trying to make this thing a broader reach platform, and for that we need to have the numbers, the subscribers, to tell high net worth guests, says, subject matter experts, that if you come on our channel, you will be able to reach this kind of an audience. That is the pure, simple thing about it. And I hope that you will refer us to your friends and family and anyone who wants to know about an accurate picture of the world. Sridharji, if you have anything to add, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, we can call it a wrap, sir.
No, I think we'll cover the GDP and some of the market related stuff tomorrow. There's some very good news to kind of share with people, so we'll do that tomorrow.
Thank you very much, sir. And as always, looking forward to seeing you first thing tomorrow morning, 5 a.m. Pacific time, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 6:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Namaskar.
Namaskar, and thank you. Have a wonderful week.